and see if you could hear me.
Yes, Stacy, we can hear you. We'll be back soon.
Great.
Recording in progress.
Everybody good? Okay, welcome to the public portion of the regular Chatham Township Committee meeting on July 18th, 2023. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So one thing I wanted to point out this evening that I am delighted to share some exciting news about some upcoming infrastructure improvements in our community. As part of our ongoing commitment to enhancing our township roads and ensuring a safe and pleasant driving experience for all, I am pleased to announce that several municipal streets will be paved this summer. The following streets are scheduled for resurfacing in the coming months: Pine Street, School Avenue, Thornley Drive, Maple Street, Floral Street, and Spring Street. We understand the importance of maintaining well-kept roadways and the positive impact that they have on our residents' daily lives. The decision to pave these roads is a very carefully planned budget allocation and collaboration with our dedicated public works team. This initiative is an integral part of our ongoing efforts to enhance the overall infrastructure of Chatham Township, ensuring smoother and safer journeys for both motorists and pedestrians alike. The paving project is scheduled to commence this summer, and we anticipate completing it in a timely manner to minimize any inconvenience. As always, we ask for your patience and cooperation during the construction process. Temporary traffic arrangements and detours may be necessary in certain areas to facilitate the work effectively. Our team will do its utmost to minimize disruptions and complete the project efficiently. We take great pride in our community and believe that these improvements will further contribute to making Chatham Township an even better place to live, work, and raise families. I extend my sincere gratitude to all residents for your ongoing support and understanding. If you have any questions or concerns regarding the paving project or any other municipal matters, please don't hesitate to contact our township offices. We value your input and are committed to working together to make Chatham Township a thriving and vibrant community for everyone. Now, can we go on to the approval of the agenda? Does anybody want to take anything out of the consent agenda?
I'd like to remove number 8.
Okay. Now, anybody else? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda with resolution 156 pulled out?
So moved.
Second, okay. Then let's move on to the hearing of citizens. Oh, yeah, all in favor, sorry. All in
Aye.
favor, aye.
Aye.
Really anxious to do that hearing of citizens. Okay. First hearing of citizens this evening. Currently, the committee meeting room is open to the public, and we look forward to having you join us. Additionally, this meeting is being made available for public participation remotely. If you're watching via Zoom, you may speak during the public comment session by following the Zoom instructions to raise your hand. Whether in person or online, when you are recognized to speak, please say your name, spell your last name, and give your street number. As a reminder, all public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Rather than use any of your time answering questions, we'll wait until you finish speaking before responding. Each member of the public will be limited to 1 comment during the public comment period. Written comments submitted to the Township Clerk before 3 p.m. today will be read during the public comment sessions. Written comments are subject to the same guidelines as oral comments, and duplicative written comments may be summarized rather than read in full, according to the guidelines issued by the New Jersey Division of Local Government Services. Greg, were there any written comments?
Yes, Lord.
Okay.
Let's see, this is from Phil Uncle at 16J Road. To the Chatham Township Committee. In regards to the upcoming vote on the budget, I wanted to raise just a few comments. 1, I'm a strong supporter of spending to keep our recreational facilities. As a general rule, I object to the use of open space funds for routine township recreational facility expenditures. 2, I noticed that one committee member has been writing public letters to the editor and requesting that people sign on to their Google poll in support of certain proposed expenditures. They're also asking for personal information of those Google poll participants. Is this member acting on behalf of the committee? If not, why are the Chatham Township logos listed as part of the solicitation? I think the current committee leadership needs to make clear what are official actions that are to be taken on behalf of the township and which actions are not. I find it unseemly that a representative of one political party is soliciting township residents to provide them with their personal details in order for those residents to be heard on topics of public concern. 3, certain candidates for township committee who are now committee members have campaigned now for several years on a platform in opposition to so-called runaway spending and taxes. Yet as I look at my tax bill, it is essentially the same as the bill that I had when those candidates were running. And I see at least one of those candidates soliciting even further increases in spending. I fail to see where this current committee majority has actually substantially cut any spending or my taxes, which suggests to me that they agreed with the spending and taxes all along. 4, I urge greater comity on this township committee than was shown at the last committee meeting, and greater clarity on who represents the committee and in what capacity. And that's, thank you, Phil Enkel.
Anybody else? Would you like to speak?
I would like to address just a portion of that, if I could. The portion of that I'd like to address is just what has been cut, because I've gotten that question directly to me several times. I've responded directly to residents about that. And what has been cut is a tremendous amount of interest cost and also legal fees. If you look at the legal fees that were paid in the past and you look at the interest cost, both of those things have been substantially reduced, and those monies have been redirected in other areas. So while you might not see it in your tax bill, that the very 15% or so of your real estate taxes that we do have some control over, that portion hasn't decreased, but money has been reoriented into more productive, more visible, better ways than spending money on interest and outside legal fees.
Okay, I'm gonna address those, a lot of that, those items later on this evening. So, would you like to speak?
Good evening, Maureen Kelly, Mountain Avenue in the Township. I have two items. The first being, I really want to come and express my support for the capital improvement budget as it is. I really want it to stay, it's meant for the big things. There have been some suggestions that there are no recreation expenses in there, and most of the recreation improvements probably should be made, but they certainly don't belong in the capital budget. And by another token, I really do not want us to use the open space money as a little petty cash fund to pay for things. So if we want to fix the things that probably ought to be fixed, I'm certainly not against that, then I think they need to go into our operating budget, maybe an increase to the Public Works Department, where a lot of those things look trivial to me. They certainly could be handled that way. And now the other question I have, and nobody seems to be talking about this, is that correctly 15% of my real estate bill is something that you have control over. About 65% is the school tax, and that's always been that way. But because we're a combined school district, the township has always been bearing maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 55% and the borough 45% of that school bill. Now, we're not talking about this, but we ought to be. The borough just did a revaluation, so their total real estate valuation was bumped up quite a bit. I haven't heard any speculation on what that's doing to that ratio of the 55-45. I don't really know where that is. All I have is a preliminary tax bill that really doesn't give you the line items, so it's really hard for me to pinpoint, but I don't know whether any of you have any information on that, because this is an area where if the municipal portion inched up a bit to pay for some of these other things, people won't notice it because maybe their school tax is going down. So that's just a suggestion, but certainly no one's talking about it. I don't know where to ask that question other than you guys. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I think it's something we can definitely look into. I don't have an answer for you personally, but I think it's something we can look at.
Yeah,
Stacey?
Maureen, that is something that I intended to follow up on. I just haven't had a chance. But yeah, I also have that question. You know, we have our equalized valuation. They have their equalized valuation that would have kind of adjusted for things beforehand. But I do have to wonder how that townwide reval for them kind of affected the balance. So I'll be reaching out to the Board of Ed or to the Superintendent's office to find out what the latest numbers look like.
Thank you, Stacy. Did I skip over our committee reports? Yes, I did. All right, we're gonna go back to that. Sorry about that. Is it not? Okay, you know what? It's not my fault. It's not on the agenda. Okay. All right, well, sorry about that. Okay, does anybody else want to need to speak, Greg?
No hands raised.
Okay, so then I'm going to close the hearing of citizens and go on to the committee reports. Committeewoman Ewald, do you have any reports?
Summer has slowed things down, including me. So
Sounds
I just
good.
want to apologize. Yeah, there's no reports, but I do want to apologize that I can't be there. Oh, you can see my crutches in the background. I am on the injured list, so hopefully if I'm not there in August meeting, then that's concerning. So I'm hoping to be there in better form so I could join you all next month.
Well, I hope you heal and feel better real soon. Thank you. Committeewoman Lois?
Yes. Okay, so for utilities, I'm the utilities liaison. There was a major power failure recently that mostly affected the borough, but certainly some of our residents were affected as well. The indications are that it's less than 200 of our residents were indicated in the same way as the borough, meaning off. They came on and then off again, and that's because there was in the Trainer substation in Chatham Borough, there was an overheat. It was specifically some oil overheat that was actually manually caught, and they went over to a temporary substation and backup power, and then that was overloaded, and that went down, and so it was a 32 hours or so of some chaos. There was also a transformer that blew on Shunpike, which affected additional residents. There's not an official report yet from JCP&L because they are responsible directly to the BPU, and they have to have an official chronology of events, so they are not able to provide that yet. What we do know, though, is that in the township we have 5 circuits. Of those 5 circuits, 1 circuit shared with the borough, and that Trainer substation. We did have better resilience than the borough. We do have multiple substations that feed us. The Gillette substation was recently rebuilt. There's one that comes from Summit. So our town has different substations that power those 5 circuits. We have far less circuits than the borough. They have 11, we have 5. But even so, the official report's still forthcoming, and I'll be following up with that. I have been working with, well before this, with JCP&L on a reliability study just year over year. This has thrown that for a loop a little bit, and they don't have the number of outage minutes, but I do have data going back now for 3 years for the number of minutes that we've been out, and it does show some improvements, but I hesitate to present any of that information because it doesn't include this most recent event. A little happier note here, Colony Pool has their final home swim meet tonight, and there's also something else exciting going on there. The first annual All Chatham Cup is going to be held by the Fairmont Country Club. So they're organizing an All Chatham Cup, so that will be Colony, Noe, Minnesink, Fairmont, of course, and Fish and Game. So that's kind of an exciting thing to wrap up the summer for our swim team.
Can I just ask, I know the mayor and I both received a lot of complaints regarding the outage. And, you know, aside from the outage itself, residents had, loss from spoilage, but they also had problems with their, with cable, with their air conditioning units. But it also turned out that others, we were one of them, were secondary. We didn't have a power outage, but because of the way the power was shifted or whatever the case might be, we also had problems. So it would be good for people to, complain to JCP&L, to complain to the BPU, because it really was, the response was, it was a beautiful day out. There was no reason for those outages. And it's important that residents speak up. But also, if you happen to be one of those secondary impacts as a result of the outages, make them aware of that as well. Or feel free to email me so I can convey that information.
Thank you, Stacy. I agree with that. If you had issues, please reach out to JCP&L and the BPU. They're the ones who can really help.
Yeah, I will just say, to add on to that, the liaison from JCP&L has offered to come in and speak if that would be the committee's proclivity. And also, when in the forthcoming official report, they do expect that just total power load, so being number of people home, not going to the office, air conditioning on, electric cars charging, the new load that's become the new normal for them. They suspect that will be part of the answer as to what the causes were. So weather being one major issue, but just total load on that Trainer substation causing that overheat.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Hamilton, do you have anything?
I do. Just as previously announced and was coming, the construction on the new teen center at the library is officially underway, and that's exciting development for the library, but it does mean for the next potentially 6 weeks or so that the back door from the parking lot by a municipal park is going to be inaccessible, and all in and out of the library is going to have to be on the Main Street side, so just bear that in mind. if you're traveling to the library. And, on the public safety front, we were very, notwithstanding the car thefts we always talk about, we're exceptionally, fortunate here in Chatham Township to be virtually free of violent crime. But regrettably, over the last month, there was an unfortunate incident that many people might have read about that was reported in local media and involved an assault and with a knife. And obviously an unfortunate situation, but I'm exceptionally happy to report the great work by the Township Police Department, and particularly Officer Cortez and Detective Gallo, who appeared on the scene immediately, and not only Sergeant Gallo, sorry, not only apprehended the assailant, but provided what appears to have been life-saving immediate first aid response to the victim. So an unfortunate event, but great work by our police department as always. And keep up on the media. Hopefully we'll be presenting some commendations in the future. The chief will. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to move on to the public hearing and the final adoption of the ordinances. The first one this evening is ordinance 2023-07, our capital ordinance. I'm going to open the public hearing of citizens on this topic. Anybody want to speak? No hands raised? All right, then I will close the hearing of citizens and move on to, can I get a motion to adopt this ordinance 2023-07 capital ordinance?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Discussion?
Yep. I would just implore the committee to, that we include capital in this capital ordinance for recreation. I think that there's definitely an appetite among our residents, and I think that we definitely need to spend some capital on recreation. Things that are going to last over 5 years and that are over $25,000 definitely have to be capital. That's not, we can include things outside of those parameters in our capital plan, but those are the requirements. And I think that there are definitely things that could be done in this community, and those are things that we've already passed in this committee. I mean, we supported netting at Mountain View to make the field more useful. We've supported numerous other things that make sense, replacing water fountains so that they're functional, having a field that's level and safe to play on. We've already passed these as resolutions in 2022. They just never got done. And putting capital towards those is a great and sensible first step. I have suggested sources of funds in the past. In our past meeting when this was introduced, I've suggested an amount. I don't think the amount is as important as just making some motion forward. And I think that one of the great ways you can see that we really need to do this, or that this would be, this would be an important step right now, is that if you look at how we've made improvements this year in recreation, we're using capital funds from prior years in order to make improvements to, let's say, the tennis courts. So I think that it's a march forward to make capital improvements. It's a march. It can't happen all at once. It can't be something like, oh, we're going to put this off, or hey, in a couple months. We know, we have known projects. We've passed the projects by resolution. We've outlined them. I don't see why we don't have recreation included on this capital budget. We could squabble about how much, but the idea of including it or not including it, it baffles me that we don't have recreation on our capital plan here.
Okay, any other comments? Do you have a comment? Stacey,
Beyond
do you
what
have
we talked about at the last meeting, I think people are supportive of recreation, our budget supports recreation, and but I agree with the capital budget as it is.
Stacy, do you have any comments?
I know, same thing. I think I said enough last time. We definitely have supported recreation and continue to support recreation now. I mean, there's a lot of items that the DPW takes care of that you don't have to ask for more money to take care of the fields and the parks. So, and I'm not accustomed to setting aside funds when I don't know what we're spending them for. I think there were decisions made about priorities in the past, and I think this committee has shown we've got a lot of money set aside already for the tennis courts, and there's other things that are taking place in the town. So I feel pretty good about where this capital budget is.
Okay, I have something to say, but I feel it's essential to address some of these recent misinformation circulating within our community regarding the allocation of funds for recreation. It's crucial to clarify these matters to avoid any misunderstanding and maintain transparency in our decision-making process. Certain statements have been made, which I must clarify as misleading and incorrect. One such statement claims that the Township Committee introduced the 2023 capital ordinance without any capital funds for recreation. This is not correct. Our 2023 budget, along with the multi-year capital plan, clearly shows that funds have been allocated for recreation. It is disheartening to see such statements from an elected official who should be well aware of municipal finance processes. Additionally, it's worth noting that an ordinance is not necessary to utilize funds from our open space fund, which has raised over $500,000 this year for both passive and active recreation facilities. Another claim that needs clarification is the notion that recreation capital can be allocated without a municipal tax increase. Our 2023 budget has been crafted responsibly to minimize the tax burden on our residents, resulting in a 0% municipal tax increase. Whether the funds come from the municipal budget or the open space budget, they are indeed funded by taxes. The available funds in both budgets have been allocated, and any further allocations would require higher taxes, which is not our intention. While we are proud of the joint rec program serving both municipalities, our primary responsibility remains with the taxpayers of Chatham Township. It has been falsely stated that $0 were allocated for recreation in 2023. This is entirely untrue. In fact, of the $500,000 from the open space tax dollars in 2023, $170,000 have been allocated to our primary parks and fields, with an additional $130,000 going toward our community pool. Moreover, our Recreation Director, Public Works Director, and Township Administrator have planned to utilize $300,000 from the Open Space Fund for each of these three major parks, addressing specific improvements based on feedbacks from various clubs and recreation stakeholders. These improvements include new netting at Shumpike Field, new water fountains, bottle refill stations, and upgrades to the Shumpike bathrooms, among others. Our municipal team and the 2023 Finance Committee have undertaken thorough due diligence and acted responsibly with taxpayer dollars. Unfortunately, the elected official causing distress in the community about recreation this year also oversaw the municipal budget last year, leading to an underestimation of costs for certain projects. However, I am pleased to inform you that the Colony Pool tennis courts will soon be completed at a cost of $161,000. The safety screens at Nash Field, number 1, and netting at Shumpike 1 and 2 have also been installed, providing further evidence that allocation for recreation have indeed been made. I want to emphasize that our sports club leaders have a direct line of communication from our Recreation Director, Public Works Director, Township Administrator, and myself. Furthermore, our Joint Recreation Advisory Committee meets regularly to discuss their needs and convey their requests to municipal staff. We believe in an inclusive approach where community leaders communicate their needs, which are then prioritized responsibly within our budget. In conclusion, I must stress that any official-looking document bearing the township seal but not present on the township website and distributed unilaterally by one elected official is without authorization and not on behalf of the township. Let us be cautious of all call to action or petition signatures under seemingly noble agendas if they lack official endorsement. We should base our trust on verified information and avoid spreading deceptions. Thank you for your continued support and engagement in the well-being of our community. Together, we can ensure a vibrant and flourishing recreation program for all the residents of Chatham Township. Can we get it to a vote?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
No.
Deputy Mayor Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Fleece?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now on to ordinance 2023-08, the water pollution facility capital ordinance. Can I open the hearing of citizens? Anybody want to speak on that? Greg, are there any hands raised?
No hands raised.
Okay, then I will go ahead and close the hearing of citizens. And can I get a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Any discussion? No discussion? All right, then we'll go to a vote.
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hamilton?
Yes.
And Mayor Felice?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And now we're going to move on to the introduction of ordinances. This is ordinance 2023-09 purchasing. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
It was my understanding from executive session, that this, and from workshop also, that this ordinance essentially is a cleaning up of the code book, but doesn't provide for a new position or is not laying the groundwork, let's say, to hire a new, employees. Is that correct?
No, it hires a part-time person. Either you can do it internally or hire a part-time QPA.
Is that a position that we had always had filled, or is that a new position?
That
or-
would be a new position. So in 2015, the law changed that created the position of QPA.
I thought that we had a QPA.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, sorry, Ms. Rose, to clarify, yes, it's creating a new position on our books. However, that position has existed, and we have had a QPA for at least.
But the problem is they had it, but they didn't have the ordinance that allowed
Correct.
it. So back in 2015, the majority of the municipalities adopted ordinances to create that position. So this codifies that position. It puts out what their requirements are based upon the administrative code, based upon state statute. It says in the ordinance that the salary will be set every year by the ordinance, the resolution, the municipal ordinance, which is a resolution. So it'll come back to the governing body.
But to Mr. Lewis's point, this is a cleaning up of something that should be in the code book, but this position already exists. Somebody occupies this position. We're not creating a new position.
We've had a QPA on staff at least since 2019.
Okay, so
But-
this is just papering it retroactively,
But not a
almost sort of
full-time, it's a
papering.
part-time position.
Correct. It's
Oh, yeah.
actually been a dual-hatted position, meaning somebody that has had a full-time job has acted as the QPA in the past. So I believe in the past, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Hoffman was also the QPA, possibly
Yes.
going back to even Mr. Chiccarone at one point, but presently our CFO acts as the QPA. So it's been a position that's been functioning, but as Mr. King said, has not been on our books, and that's why we're doing this ordinance as cleanup, to make sure that it clarifies that the position exists and is consistent with state law.
Is there compensation for the position currently being paid?
Yeah, there has been, this current CFO has foregone it as part of an additional stipend. It was rolled into her base, but prior to that, there was a stipend associated with it.
So is this ordinance tying us to any additional funds, or is this something we can address?
No, it's not tying us to any additional funds, and, again, as sort of Mr. King
It's
said.
gonna be whatever you pass in the salary
Correct.
ordinance, which is a resolution, every year you pass it.
Correct, and this year, we did not appropriate for that position.
Okay.
So, but this could be creating a runway for additional spending.
Not additional spending, no.
Well,
It's not creating.
for
one.
bigger.
If we didn't appropriate the money this year, but that we create a position by ordinance, I believe positions created by ordinance we have to fill. Am I wrong about that?
So you,
No.
well, there's two things. A bigger town, a bigger, cities, they have full-time QPAs and they have actually staff. It's a separate department. By statute, you need an ordinance to have a QPA. That position, the QPA position, was never officially codified in your books. This just brings that position into compliance with the law.
But does statute require us to have a QPA?
No, you don't. It doesn't require you, but if you're gonna have one, you have to have the ordinance, you have to appoint it, you have to ensure that the person is qualified through the state, that the state tests them, that they have to keep up their qualifications, and they have to follow the administrative code and again, the statute.
If we're not,
It's very specific.
but we're not funding this title now, it's not appropriated, is what I just heard.
No, that's not correct.
Okay, I thought I just heard it said that there was no money appropriated for QPA this year.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay,
Is there a stipend, and what you're saying is that
There's,
the stipend
wow,
is appropriate?
I just have to reset because I don't know how we've kind of like spiraled out of here, especially after workshop and having discussed this. We have a QPA. We have had a QPA for a number of years. That QPA has, as far as I'm aware, always received a stipend in addition to their full-time duties. So this is not creating additional appropriations. This year, the CFO, who is acting as our QPA, even though she was receiving a separate stipend, forewent, forewent her separate stipend, and it was part of her base. So the net change was zero.
And she will be appointed at the QPA.
She was appointed the QPA at the beginning of this year. You guys appointed her as the QPA, and you set the bid threshold, which is a requirement that you do, is to appoint the QPA and annually adopt a resolution to set the bid threshold, because the state changes the bid threshold every year and allows municipalities the flexibility. So because of our size, what Mr. King's saying, if we have a QPA, we have to have this ordinance. We've had a QPA, but the ordinance never existed. So I flag this as cleanup, that we need to update our ordinance to provide for that position, since we've been appointing one for a number of years now. Does that help?
It does, but I get Mr. Los's point too, which is next year, when next year comes around, and the CFO has her base, which you're reflecting, has, what is effectively a stipend for this position built into it. But is this ordinance gonna in any way require us to have a separate additional stipend?
No. Nope. You could set that stipend for this as zero. When I did the salary ordinance last year, that range was a wide range, essentially. I want to say, I could pull this up, with a low end of zero, because you don't have to give them a stipend. Somebody could do it gratis.
Or because it's built into their base. It's not
Correct.
gratis,
Correct.
it's in the base.
Additional duty.
Correct.
Yeah.
As an additional duty, and that was what was told to her, is this is an additional duty for you.
Okay.
well, seeing as we received this document today, and whatever we're discussing is a change to the code book that it sounds to me will have an impact, or is being made in preparation for something next year, I think it would just be appropriate if we just table this until next time, so that I just have a better understanding of the actual document, of what this ordinance is. I have some understanding, but I think that I don't think it's unreasonable to just kick it off. I don't think there's any deadline, and if there is, please let me know. But I don't think there's a deadline, and if it's something for next year, we certainly have a number of meetings we could introduce this again.
Mayor, so but there is no deadline on this, but also, just as a reminder, you do have this just introduction, you have another opportunity in a whole month to consider it, delay it again, and it's not in preparation for next year, it's just housekeeping for essentially today. We've appointed the QPA, it's not changing anything other than clarifying our ordinances and making sure that our code book is consistent with state law.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, the other reality is the budget, we review and approve salaries every year, we review and approve salary ranges every year, we review and approve the budget, so we have an opportunity, and I don't know what the insinuation is that the administrator is gonna start staffing up because he's got this extra QPA, which I think it may be like a stipend of $5,000, I don't recall it being a big stipend, so, I think we let our administrator manage his team and do what he needs to do, and we have that oversight of the budget and the salary and the process. So I support moving forward.
Okay, let's go to a vote.
Mrs. Ewald,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
No.
Deputy Mayor Hamilton,
Yes, to the introduction.
and Mayor Felice.
Yes.
Motion passes. Public hearing will be on August 15th.
Okay, now I'm going to, can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda with resolution 156 pulled out?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, roll call?
Mrs. Ewald,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hamilton,
Yes.
and Mayor Felice.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now, can I get a motion to adopt resolution 156, the shared services agreement?
So moved?
Is there a second? Yeah, I need you to.
Okay, second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I asked to have this pulled out. I had talked a little bit about how the terms really didn't match what came out of the Recreation Subcommittee, and that I hadn't gotten feedback on that, and I'd just seen this for the first time on Friday. But that stuff aside, I think there's a real, like a litmus test to tell on this agreement. This is agreement, shared services agreement for recreation. It's been ongoing for 18 months or so, give or take. I don't think that, I think we can wait to get this right. I don't think we need to pass this. And it seems to me that the tell on this agreement is that it says, basically, it puts the borough as the lead program coordinator, and then assigns the township as the assistant program coordinator. And then it says, but if circumstances are to change, then this agreement should be reopened and it's subject to be renegotiated. I think a fair agreement would say, hey, your counterparty is willing to switch positions with you. And in this agreement, that's not the case. So if the township's to become the lead program coordinator, it doesn't just automatically flop over to us, all the terms. So I think that would be a better balanced and more agreeable agreement. I think that would be, that passes a basic fairness test. And for me, this doesn't pass that basic fairness test. And I think also, given the fact that there's a 6-month termination in this new agreement, as there was a 6-month termination in the old agreement, and it's extended into what it's extended into, which is more than 12 months, maybe less than 18, but certainly over 12 months. I think it behooves us just to get it right, so that we can have an agreement where things where we're not in limbo for this period of time, because it takes more than 6 months apparently to renegotiate such an agreement. And I think if we had something that, hey, if circumstances change, it did flop over, it would make a little bit more sense.
I gotta be honest, I'm not understanding exactly what you mean. I mean, it seems kind of vague. If circumstances change, the parties switch sides.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. No, I agree with you. It's in the agreement. It's not that, it is kind of vague. It says, hey, you know, the borough's the lead program coordinator, the township's the assistant program coordinator, and there's a fee paid from the township to the borough, and, you know, for certain services. But should the borough not be able to fulfill that, then it doesn't, and the township is able to be the lead program coordinator, that we don't just change places in terms of a shared service. We're not just providing the service. There's a period of renegotiation that gets reopened, and I think that doesn't meet a basic fairness test.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of points. One, I'm not sure where there's confusion, because these terms are definitely discussed in at least 2 executive session meetings. So the terms in this agreement are exactly what I was anticipating based on all of our discussions. The notion of flipping back and forth, there was just a belief when the joint shared services agreement was terminated that it would be kind of this easy renegotiation, or that, I don't know what the concept was, but it wasn't, it's not that easy. This concept of 2 rec directors and one, if one's not doing it, the other one's doing it, it's not as clear cut as you might like it to be. So I think our administrator, I think our rec people have been working this entire time to try and figure out what would work to continue to maintain the programs at the level of excellence that they've been maintained, provide the support to our volunteers. We don't want to burden them any more than we have to. And I think this is a good document. And the reality is, if for some reason circumstances do change, we do need to be able to step to the table, which, yeah, I mean, we could do with 6 months lead time, but we want to be able to step to the table at that point and renegotiate based on where we are with our staffing. So again, all these terms are exactly what I was anticipating. So I support this.
So I tend to echo a lot of what Stacy had just said. I read it, our agreement, it's pretty much exactly what I anticipated the agreement to be. There was no shock there. I'm glad that we were able to come to an agreement with Chatham Borough so that there is no issues with our joint rec program, because it is such a popular program within our community. There's so much participation in our recreation. And I know there was a lot of anxiety when we wanted to renegotiate the agreement. I'm glad that we can finally put an end to that and let everyone know that we are ready to sign. We came to an agreement and we're ready to sign. So I'm ready to call for a vote.
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
No.
Deputy Mayor Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Fleece?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so now we have a final hearing of citizens this evening. Anybody want to speak?
No hands raised.
No hands raised? Last call. Anybody? All right, thank you very much. And can I get a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Stacy, happy birthday.
And,
Thank you.
oh, happy birthday. And feel better and rest that knee. Have a good one.
Have a good night.
Recording stopped.